Hi, hello there, and welcome to what I think we're going to be calling Tiny Blue Lectures. Because someone put that in the comments section and I thought it was funny, so we're going to run with it. So, this being the first one. And you guys seemed to like the singular talking head video that I did where I was just comparing amber and glitter and lasers together. And I kind of want to expand on that one, but it also has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about today. So, today we are going to have an anthropology lecture. You guys have been asking for this. Some people have been challenging it. I suspect the people who've been challenging it probably are not going to be the people who watch this video. Just putting that out there. But I want to talk about in this video YouTube as a lived space and how amber fits into that lived space. So work with me. I've got lecture notes over here that you're going to see me looking at. So if you see me looking off screen, that's why. I also have people working on my roof of my apartment building. So I apologize if you hear noises. And right. So I am an anthropologist by training. I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology. I was an archaeologist for 25 years. And I am ABD as a master's student in CRM, which is Cultural Resource Management, which is a branch. Well, that was kind of a whole thing. Cultural Resource Management is a bunch of stuff, and archaeology is part of CRM, but it's also part of anthropology. CRM is not a discipline; it's a career. I'm just going to confuse people further if I keep trying to explain that one. But what I do want to explain is anthropology is a umbrella term for for 4 branches of study. And underneath those 4 branches of study, there are just so many subdisciplines underneath those. So you're usually going to hear about anthropology being broken down to in physical anthropology, cultural anthropology, archaeology, and a really cool field called linguistics. And man, I was this close to being in linguistics, but there are no jobs. Like, I had a hard time. There are no jobs in linguistics, but it's still really cool. And I do kind of wish I'd spent more time studying it a little bit. So that being said, so I guess the point that I really want to be making at this juncture is that anthropology and archaeology are effectively the same thing. In my opinion, archaeology should be the umbrella field, and anthropology fits nicely under archaeology, but that is another discussion for another time, which it was very involved, and I don't want to have it right now. So what I wanted you to take away from that ramble is that anthropology, big umbrella term, archaeology, part of anthropology. There are very few colleges and universities that will teach archaeology outside of their anthropology department. Sometimes you will find it in the history department, but even when it is taught through the history department, archaeology, it is still forever part of anthropology. So archaeology will always be anthropology. And what we will be discussing actually in the Sister Wives episode roundup that I'm going to do, you will find anthropologists with a master's or a PhD who are actually archaeologists because they will pursue a higher degree, their master's or their PhD. So they will have a degree or a master's in anthropology, but they will be archaeologists. Is there any possible way that you could maybe not interrupt one of my videos? So before we can discuss amber anthropologically, we need to define YouTube anthropologically and define YouTube as a lived space. So a lived space in anthropology is the concept. So in anthropology, the concept of lived space refers to ways in which people experience and interact with and think about physical and social spaces. And the reason why social space is in there is because a lived space doesn't have to be a physical space. It can encompass things such as relationships, cultural practices that are embedded within the space. It is reflective of how a community experiences the environment of said lived space, and that can be anything from perceptions and emotions to memories of said space. It has a cultural significance. And I know when people hear the word culture, they're thinking of like the big C culture, like any major culture, I guess is what I'm trying to say, like German culture or French culture or that kind of stuff. Culture doesn't have to be a huge concept. It can be very narrow, and live space is one place where culture can be incredibly narrow, much like the culture of YouTube. He's sulking because I won't let him sit on top of my desk. So there's also social interactions and relationships, both of which are intangible but are real, kind of a thing that happen within a lived space, and daily practices and routines. There are people who post the routines on YouTube. There are people whose routine is to check YouTube first thing off, or they wind down their day with YouTube. I realize that TikTok is here, but we're not talking about TikTok today. There's also power and politics and social dynamics in a lived space. I don't think anybody's going to argue that's happening on YouTube. And there's also symbolism and representation within the community, which again, I don't feel like any of these ideas, these concepts I don't think anybody's going to argue that these are things that happen on YouTube, but excuse me. So YouTube is a lived space. It is an intangible use space, but yet can be interacted with physically. Fun times. So there's been a developing concept within anthropology and archaeology of the digital space as a lived space, because there's been historically pushback on the concept that the internet could be a human, could be treated like a human occupation site, which it totally can. And that's because the concept of material culture has had to develop in tandem with the internet. And the internet, as we know, is a series of tubes and wires. I'm joking. But it is itself an intangible yet physical place. We humans spend time in and on the internet, both interacting and creating material culture. So video games, excellent example of that. YouTube videos, that's the example we're going with. Any PDF document, music files, the code of the internet itself, all those ones and zeros, those are artifacts. So that is material culture. I don't study that, but there are people that do, and I don't get it. Like, I can't wrap my head around studying that, but I accept that that is what it is. I do not argue that the internet is a physical space because it's a physical. I live on the internet. This exists on the internet. Any of you watching this probably have daily reliable access to the internet. How many of us have cell phones that we would be completely lost with if we didn't have them? I know admitting the problem is the first step. I say as my phone sits right next to me. So YouTube is a unique digital lived space. It is a space within the internet, which is the larger space. We can argue all kinds of different things about the internet, but we're focusing mostly on YouTube. So there. It's a unique digital space. It reflects and influences various aspects of human culture, behavior, and social interaction. So the argument being put forward here by me is that YouTube, by me and others, by the way, is that YouTube directly influences and changes human culture, behavior, and the interactions that we have amongst ourselves. Keeping in mind that these interactions, this culture, and these behaviors can be online digital interactions alone. So we're talking the comments section. We're talking reaction videos. We're talking sharing the funny video with your grandma. We're talking, hey, I sent you that file. Did you get that thing I sent you? Kind of stuff. Memes, music videos, this lecture, podcasts, live streams. These are all chunks of YouTube that influence and are part of human culture today. YouTube and the internet, I argue, are probably, well, the internet definitely is the most influential thing to happen to human culture, to global human culture, in living memory. There are those of us who do remember a time before the internet, but there are at least at this point 2 distinct generations that do not have memory of a time before the internet. Well, there's probably 4 distinct generations at that point for that. And there's at least 2, I'm thinking maybe 3 generations that do not recall a time before YouTube. Take that how you want. It's like saying that that my generation didn't know a time before electricity. That is true. Do I want to go back to that time? No. I like my lights. I like my AC. I like my central heating. I like my running water. So there's all of that. I think it is fair to say that anyone, anywhere in the world who has reliable internet connection is directly influenced by the internet, probably on the daily, maybe even in ways they don't realize. Because I know there's a lot of people who are like, I don't spend all of my time on the internet. You probably spend a lot more time on the internet than you think you do. Also, hey, how you like that phone? Kind of a thing. So, YouTube is a great space. It's a great lived space that it shows cultural exchange and diversity, social interaction and community building, identity and representation, especially identity building. The concept of creating your online persona, your online identity, which is something we will talk about a lot with Amber. It's also a great learning and knowledge repository. Seriously, is there not a YouTube video for just about everything you need to know how to do? Every time I have a problem with OBS, I immediately go to YouTube first. And if I can't find it, then I go somewhere else. But YouTube's my go-to for that. It's to the point. Now, keep in mind, I use Google, who owns YouTube now, and now there's the generative AI thing. But anytime recently, it seems, since I've tried to Google anything on any topic on Google, I get multitudes of YouTube videos first, where it used to be links. And this is a recent thing that I've noticed within the last few months. So, but it also shows the reliability of YouTube and the influence of YouTube over various generations. There's a lot of people, much like with the development of Wikipedia, where people are like, oh my God, it's going to destroy human knowledge as we know it. There are a large group of people that will look at Wikipedia and just kind of take it as gospel without doing any kind of backup research. Same thing with YouTube videos, which is why I think it's very important for people to leave links down in their comment or down in their descriptions, which I will be doing. But it's also very important to point out that in today's day and age, fact-checking YouTube videos and Wikipedia becomes very difficult. It becomes a self-fulfilling or self-feeding loop, because when where are you going to go to fact check? You're going to go to Google. You're going to type in whatever it was that you're trying to fact check off of YouTube or Google. What's the first thing YouTube and Google are going to spit, or what's the first thing Google's going to spit back to you for your search? YouTube and probably Wikipedia. So that also is a massive influence on learning, knowledge sharing, culture, society. It also has a major influence on behavior and what have been defined as trends. I don't think I really need to go too far into detail on that one for those of us who survived the cinnamon challenge. We did some fun stuff. Please don't do the cinnamon challenge. It also defines ethics and societal changes. I mean, how many of us have watched? I mean, I can just think of all these different YouTube videos that have been put up of various protests, various political rallies. People use YouTube in a variety of ways. And remember, when YouTube first started, for those of us who can, YouTube was just people talking to a camera. Some of them, there was no high quality videos on YouTube because it was really just like a 5-minute video of you talking to the digital eye. There was no one there. And even then, posting your video and getting like 20 views was massive because that's how little people were using YouTube at the time. But it took off. Don't get me wrong. We're not slamming YouTube's popularity. So YouTube also influences the evolution of language and how we communicate. Reaction videos are a perfect example of this because even though when I'm making a reaction video, I am talking about the person I am reacting to, it's not lost on me that anyone can watch that video, including the person I'm reacting to. And they can see that video as a form of communication with them. And sometimes, people even do that whole direct eye contact, I'm talking to you, kind of a thing, on the off chance that that person will be watching that video, which could in turn create a reaction video to the reaction video and back and forth. And actually, when YouTube very first started, that was very encouraged. The whole idea of, I'm going to make a video, someone's going to react to my video, I react to their video, and we start having a conversation back and forth via video. There also used to be a function on YouTube that allowed you to directly DM anyone with an account, like any other social media account, like Facebook or Facebook. Can you DM people on TikTok? Or Instagram or any of that kind of stuff? Twitter. Excuse me, I've got cat hair. Twitter, or I guess now we're on Mastodon. Can people DM me on Mastodon? I don't know. Anyway, my point is, that used to be a function on YouTube as well, but it was removed in 2011, I believe it was. I looked it up in another video, and I believe it was in 2011 that, or around that time, that YouTube removed the ability to DM each other. And so we as creators, we as a social group, were cut off from each other there. And so the only way to interact with each other at that point then became via video. So again, that's influencing the way we're communicating. All right. I want to make sure I'm reiterating things because I want to move on to Amber. So, all right. Things I hope I have established by this point. YouTube can be studied anthropologically and also has been studied anthropologically since basically its inception. You can go to Google Scholar and type in anthropology and YouTube, literally that phrase, and you will get probably at this point hundreds of papers. A good chunk of them are available if you want to click on the PDF link to them, and some of them are really interesting. People have been using YouTube to study everything from cultural identity and ethnic spread, the diaspora. Yeah, ethnic diaspora. I'm using fancy words, but basically people's migration across foreign places, the study of music and the culture of music and who's performing the music, in general, the study of the development of the concept of being anything, the development of the personal identity. What is a girl? What does it mean to be a boy? What does masculinity look like on YouTube? What does femininity look like on YouTube? How has YouTube influenced that concept? How has it encouraged it to change? Language development. What was another one that I saw? Oh, one was really cute. It was the study of the language of French cats. And I had to read the abstract because I was like, what the hell? And basically, the whole concept of I can has cheeseburger. And so they're looking at how specifically French people use cat language in their cat pictures and their cat videos and that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really kind of cute. Cats are everywhere. They're even in anthropology. I just thought it was a cute video or a cute paper. Completely irrelevant. There's also a really great hour-long lecture that I will be posting in the description. That is an early 2000, I want to say 8 or 2009 presentation on the anthropology of YouTube. So that one is actually really cool because the guy it's a very multimedia on purpose, a very multimedia examination of YouTube, and it's incredibly dated because it's so old. But he focuses on the Numa Numa song, if anybody remembers that. Numa Numa. I forgot how much I liked that until I watched the video and I was like, oh my God, take me back. Yes. All right. Moving on from YouTube as a lived space. And also, if at any point you guys have questions, please leave them down in the comments section down below. I will be looking at the questions and trying to answer them as best as possible. I'll either do another video or I'll try to answer them in chat. Anyway, the point is, Amberlynn Reid as an anthropological study subject. Yes, it is true. Amberlynn exists within the context of YouTube as a lived space. Her presence and impact on the platform can be discussed in several ways. Again, I'm looking at my notes. Amber, whether we have to step away from your personal opinion of Amber, that is the only way to do this. Apologies. Yes, we have biases. We acknowledge that and we move forward from there. All right. Amber influences and impacts YouTube's lived space in a variety of ways. Her identity and self-presentation. We've talked about that before in other videos that I've done. Her videos revolve around her personal life, her struggles with her weight, her lifestyle aspects, and also how, this one's important, how she uses YouTube herself to negotiate her lived experience. All right. Community building and social interaction. There would not be an Amberverse without Amber. However, we would not have Amber without the internet. So again, self-feeding loops. A lot of this is self-feeding loops. Community building and social interaction. Amber has an entire community built around her. You can call it the Amberverse. You can call them Am Babies. You can call it Hater Nation. But within that community, social interaction is encouraged. We make reaction videos. There are multiple reaction channels that probably would not exist if it wasn't for Amber. Granted, the majority of reaction channels that I watch, that I personally watch, do diversify. But I mean, there's a lot of them that don't. So, and again, if it were not for Amberlynn, those channels and those reactors would not exist. We can do the whole, they might exist in a different form or something. Maybe they would, but that's a different planet. That's a different realm of reality. We're talking about this one. The interactions around her content are a small slice of larger social interactions that do revolve around the concepts of body image, health, and lifestyle choices. A lot of people will say that they come for Amber because of her lifestyle choices, which I don't doubt. But the reality of the situation is Amber's 600 pounds, and that's what a lot of people come here to look at. Amber influences viewer engagement and the concept and idea of influencer culture. Is Amber a massive influencer? Even I've said no, but Amber is an influencer. And somebody actually recently pointed out in the comments section of one of my other videos, Amber is famous in her own right. She's not like Jeffree Star famous, like she likes to think she is, but we all know who she is. And there's a surprising amount of people that know who Amber is. I'm always stunned. It's a surprising amount of people in the anthropology and archaeology communities, or at least who profess to be so, who are very into Amber, which also surprised me. I thought it was just me. Apparently it's not. But viewer engagement. Amber if not directly engages with her viewers through the comment section. I don't know. I don't really see her comment on commenters very much anymore, but there has been evidence that she's done it in the past. But Amber does directly address the cultures that she built around her viewers. She directly addresses us through her videos multiple times. Lecture Lynn is a thing, and it happens. And she talks to her audience on a one-to-one basis, viewing us through the lens of her camera. She's not talking to me. She's talking to the greater cloud that is her viewership. And for her, that is engagement. And it is engagement because Amber talks to us. We make reaction videos talking to her. Amber sees those videos and engages with us back. And we watch her videos and make reactions to that. Representation and marginalization. Again, this is one of those times where you really have to set your personal opinions of Amber aside because regardless, Amber's struggles with obesity and her body issues and her health do show an underrepresented and stigmatized group of people on mainstream media. Is she a good representation of that? That is where you get to decide. But the point is that love it or hate it, she does fit that. She does fit into that role. Is she the most marginalized of representations on YouTube? No, I did not say that, nor will I imply that. So, controversy and community dynamics. Do I even really need... That really does go back to viewer engagement and influencer culture. Amber's controversies create engagement in the multitude of communities that exist because Amber exists. And we can step outside of YouTube at this point to discuss things like the various Reddit threads and the infamous farms. And wasn't there something else that existed that got kiboshed? Anyway, if there's a forum where people can get together and discuss YouTube or anything, there's a subgroup there that discusses Amberlynn. I even checked on Mastodon. If you know what Mastodon is, it's like an open source version of Twitter, but it's not Twitter. It's not Twitter, but it's kind of like it. Anyway, there's Amberverse discussions on Mastodon. Granted, there were only like 2 people, but they were there. There's a Threads version of the Amberverse discussion. And really that one exists because Threads was developed directly on the back of Instagram, of which there's a massive group of Amberverse people on Instagram. Twitter, Twitter, Reddit, obviously, the farms, probably in Quora and Google questions. They probably exist there too. I just haven't gone and dug. So Amber influences social groups outside of the people that directly view her on YouTube. All right. This is also why it's very easy to say Amber is an influencer and she is famous. Positive or negative, she is these things. So, all right. The economic aspects of YouTube content creation. Amber herself profits from her YouTube channel. And the ethics thereof is neither here nor there. I'm sorry, my phone keeps going off. The ethics of that is a different discussion. We're not having that right now. But we are pointing out that Amber not only benefits from her own channel, but because Amber has spawned reaction channels, there are others who benefit financially from Amber's channels as well. I understand that I am one of them. Pretty much any of the channels out there that react to her that are over a certain size are going to be benefiting monetarily from Amber's mere existence. Whether they're making money hand over fist or they're just making 2 cents a day, it's still something. and they still fit into that category. And that 2 cents wouldn't exist in that person's pocketbook if it had not been for the content that they created based off of Amber. Cultural reflection and influence, more cultural influence. In this category, we have the topics of the content and discussion of Amber's channel influencing cultural and discussing cultural and societal issues. And I know it's really hard to see Amber as some kind of giant cultural influence, but as a good example, Amber has recently told us that she was diagnosed with BPD, which is borderline personality disorder this time, not bipolar, but she's also discussed. But anytime Amber brings up her mental health, it generates a discussion around mental health. Anytime Amber brings up her physical health, it generates a discussion around around health, and usually obesity, because Amber's 600 pounds. Anytime Amber brings up, what's another one that she does on the routine? Come on, goddamn it, brain. This wasn't the one I was looking for, but anytime Amber discusses her relationships, it creates a discussion around relationships in not only her comment sections, but also in the comment sections of the channels that react to her. I'm thinking of my own comment section, which just the comments and the discussions that I see happen in my own comment sections, and I am not a large channel by any stretch. I value all of my supporters and my subscribers and my members, because I wouldn't be a channel without them. But the reality of the situation is I am a very small fish in the giant pond of the Amberverse, and I have very detailed, very good discussions, not only with my viewers, but my viewers interacting with each other as well. I've only seen one actual discussion that I would call a kerfluffle, and it was very odd. It had something to do with Marilyn Monroe, and I was just like, whatever. I wasn't part of it. I was just kind of watching it from the sidelines. Anyway. But that's happening in my comment section. I can only imagine what the comment sections look like on significantly larger channels like Zachary Michael, who constantly gets brought up. Is he the #1 channel reacting to Amber right now? But, you've got his channel. I'm sure if I looked at the comment sections on Kicking Geese's channel after she does her lives, I'm sure I would see discussions, back and forth discussions there. Well, and again, when Alex is shook, I don't watch Zachary. I do watch Kicking Geese and Alex. Both of them go live, and I've watched the comments that happen during the live streams. There is significant back and forth conversation, not only with the person reacting, but also among the people who have come to watch the reactor. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It is, I watch Amber, I comment on Amber. That's engagement between Amber and I. People in my comments section will comment to me about my reaction. That is engagement between myself and my viewership. And then other people will comment on the commentor. That is interaction between the commenter and that person, but also an interaction between that commenter and myself. Hang on. And also it, in a very, very roundabout way, becomes an interaction between that commenter of a commenter and Amber as well. So that's the social part of it. That just reinforces that Amber, in a weird kind of way, is herself a lived space. Ethical and societal challenges. Amber does influence these. Again, going back to any time Amber mentions her social health, well, that anytime, well, yeah, really, anytime Amber talks about if she's social or not, anytime she talks about her mental health, anytime she talks about her life in any variety, whether her life is too public or if it's too private, any interaction Amber has with anyone, it gets discussed. And Amber is a great launching point for a lot of discussions around the concept of obesity and health, obesity and mental health and obesity. Love it or hate it, Amber is disabled now, but that's her own, because of her own actions, which in itself is a discussion, you know. It's Amber is a great starting point for a lot of important, in my opinion, important discussions that wouldn't get started in my comment section any other way, because my comment section wouldn't exist if I wasn't making a video about Amberlynn or the other things I cover now, but I started making only reactions to Amberlynn. So Amber's presence on YouTube influences things like digital culture, identity. I talk a lot about Amber developing her online persona, which everyone does. It's a human thing. We all have a persona for every interaction that we do. And Amber has been developing the character of Amberlynn for going on 10 years now. I could say over, but we're only over by like a month. So her community dynamics, not only Amber's interactions with her community, but also the community's interactions with itself and the community's interactions with communities outside of the community. Most recently, there was a bit of a tiff strong. There was somebody from outside the group who made a criticism of the group, and there was some backlash to that person who decided to criticize the group overall. And if you know, you know, and if you don't, I'm not going into it. But that is interaction of the Amberverse or Hater Nation or what you want to call it. That is an interaction between that community and the community outside of that community. Influencer culture. I know when we think of influencer culture, like the first thing that pops into our heads are like people that are selling things and they make it seem attractive so you want to buy it, or somebody who's like, I don't know, influencing you to wear a certain thing or something like that. But she is an influencer in that she influences the way people interact, the way people discuss. And again, without Amber, we would not have the Amberverse. I understand she's just one part of girl world, but it does really seem to me that, like, though she is only one part of girl world, I feel like she was like a founding part of girl world. Like, I didn't know about it until I knew about Amber. And that could just be personal bias. So take that how you want. Representation of marginalized voices. Love it or hate it. Love it or hate it. And I know there's a large group of people who are going to be like, she's not my representative, but Amber does, unfortunately or fortunately, represent people with mental health, obese people, people with food addiction struggles, people with binge eating until recently, people who have, just in general struggles with their weights. These are arguably marginalized voices in that there's not a lot of them, and it's very difficult sometimes for people who are struggling with issues that the greater society doesn't either accept or doesn't understand very well. There's a good chance that people who are being open about those struggles will get negative feedback or just in general shut down or ignored. I'm not saying she's a good representative for these things, but she is a representative of it. Don't come for me. And also the idea of an ethical landscape within digital concept creation or content creation. The way people interact with the Amberverse and with Amber and with each other and people outside of the group. There's a discussion that can be had there. I'm not an ethics person. I will occasionally bring it up, but like I'm not an ethics person. But you could make the argument that Amber is a direct influence on that kind of a thing, especially when you look at the larger parts of Amber's influence on the live space that is YouTube. And there we go. So there you go. You guys wanted to discuss this crap. Are you... Tell me now. Are you happy? So, anthropology studies human societies and human cultures. YouTube is a lived space and falls within the categories of both human culture and human society. Amber is a smaller lived space within the larger lived space that is YouTube. And Amber herself generates both human culture and human society around her and directly influences human society and culture outside of her. So, although Amber is, yes, an individual, she is also very arguably a lived space within a larger lived space that exists on the internet, which is itself a lived space. And all of that falls into the category of anthropology. I could also sit here and make an argument about it's all archaeology as well, but people really get irritated when I do that. However, that gap between accepting digital archaeology as a legitimate form of archaeology, it has narrowed astronomically over just like the last 10 years. So I would imagine in the next 5, I will probably never have to have an argument that digital archaeology is legitimate archaeology. So there is that. And yes, I could very easily study Amber and her channel archaeologically as well. Keeping in mind her videos are inherently material culture, and that is all I need in order to study it archaeologically. So that was a lot for me. I hope all of that made sense. I had notes. I felt like they flowed well. Let me know. I am positive people are going to have comments and they're going to have questions. Perfectly acceptable. Please try to be respectful of not only me, but other people who will be commenting as well. And what emoji do I have? Ugh. What emoji should we have? Is there an emoji for the YouTube button? Does YouTube have its own emoji? Because that would be amazing. But if not, put a spider web. Yeah, put a spider web. Unless there's a YouTube button. If there's a YouTube emoji, put the YouTube emoji. If not, put a spider web down for the World Wide Web. See what I did there? But yeah, please let me know what you guys thought about this. A lot of you have requested it. It's highly requested. Go ahead, ask your questions. I will, like I said, I'll either try to answer them in the comment section itself, or I might make another video, just kind of a follow-up to this. I will have some links in the description box, so please, if you want, please go check those out. And yeah, thank you to people who support the channel. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my members. This is probably going to go out to my members first and then out to my subscribers, because I need to give my members something and I love them. So I really need to give them something, and early access is the best I can do right now. Yeah, and don't forget to leave a thumbs up. You can leave a thumbs down if you want. May as well subscribe if you like this kind of content. I will apparently be making more of it going forward. And yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys probably in the next one, which will probably be a rebuttal to this. Bye!